Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome back to another episode of Mission Consciousness, the podcast, with me, AJ Roberts, formerly of the AJ Roberts Show, and we're here today with John Bygraves. And John is a fantastic guy who I've followed for quite some time now. Been following his story, heard him on a number of podcasts recently, and John is a stage 4 cancer recovery legend, let's call it, who basically went on a path of self-healing and soul recoding, which he now does for many people all around the world. So I was really keen to get John on the podcast today, another fellow guy that's been through the mill and really done the work himself and basically take it upon himself in his own power to go through a whole self-healing process. So I wanted to get John on the show today to talk in depth about the modalities and methodologies that he's used in that period over the last, well, best part of sort of 8 years now, and how his whole processes have evolved since then and how he's helping other people. Welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you, AJ. Lovely to be here, and thank you for that lovely introduction. Yeah, couldn't have put it better myself. Thank you very much.
Very
And
well.
yeah, it's lovely to be here. So, um, yeah, um, great to meet you as well, virtually.
It, yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's great at the minute because a lot of our focus is focusing on sort of getting our men activated, getting the hearts open of men, getting them understanding their authenticity and standing in their power, and things like that. So it's great to have a fellow guy, come on the show that has basically done all of that and above, and is showing other people to do the same. So for the benefit of the viewers and the listeners, is it okay to just give a sort of brief on like how you came to where you are now, obviously post diagnosis back in 2017?
yeah. So, I wasn't initially. I was diagnosed with this rare form of cancer, which it was an external cancer. So mine come up on my face, and then moved into my neck area, and completely broke out onto my neck. So it was a very rare form of they called it an anaplastic large T cell lymphoma, and it was a very aggressive cancer. It was very fast moving, progressed from like a stage 1 to a stage 4 in the matter of like I think it was about 6 to 8 weeks. So it's very fast moving. So yeah, that was back in 2017. Madly enough, I kind of didn't really want to go down the conventional route. I wasn't really in tune with that, shall we say? But I had a lot of immense pressure from family, close friends and family, to take on conventional treatment. But nevertheless, very quickly, I dived into energy work. I knew about alternative treatments. I knew about suppressed holistic work, stuff that had been working for many years. So I intuitively just turned to that straight away and put the work in immediately. I kind of had a very wild life leading up to my diagnosis. So I was a DJ. Well, I still am a DJ, but I was a DJ, music producer, working as a barber as well. So I had a very hectic and an intense life up until that point. So I had to do like a 180-degree turn on my entire life very quickly because I didn't have a great deal of time. And then yeah, that was the start of the alternative holistic work that I started to implement very quickly in 2017. So that was the start. That was the start of the unfolding of what brought me up to this point today. That work that I started back then, I was like I was regimented. I was very disciplined. Had to be. I didn't have a great deal of choice because the doctors decided to slap a 3-month life sentence on me. They said to me, if you
They love doing that, don't they?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it. I don't believe in it. And hence why I'm still here, because
Mm.
that's it. That was the thing when they said to me, "You've got 3 months to live." Um, it just didn't resonate with me. It
But no
just
one, no one, there's no one out there that can put a time limit on you. Is
No,
that?
and it shouldn't be. It's not fair to do that.
Mm,
It's really not fair to do that. And being somebody in that position, look, I'm not going to sit here and lie that it didn't strike fear into me. It would do with for anybody,
mm,
especially in the state that I was in. I mean, I had a tumor the size of a fist in my neck, so it's like that. You know, when a doctor's telling you you've got 3 months to live, yeah, it does strike up a bit of fear inside of you, of
mm,
course. But fear is only an illusion. So, you know, at the end of the day, it took a bit of work to overcome that fear, but I did overcome it purely through doing the holistic and the alternative work that had implemented through meditation, through visualization, and yeah, when they actually told me that I had 3 months to live, the doctor kind of wanted me to. They'd already got me into radiotherapy, and the doctor had kind of promised me that I was going to get I was going to get good results from doing this radiotherapy. And at the time, my cancer was only that tumor in my neck was only in a concentrated area. Bear in mind, I'd already up until going into radiotherapy, I'd already implemented all the holistic work. I was doing energy work, I was doing forgiveness, I was doing acceptance, I was doing grounding, fasting, juicing, you name it. Leading up to that point, before I'd even gone into and touched any conventional treatment, the leading radiographer in Guy's Hospital sat down with me and she looked at me and she said, "I don't know what you've been doing, but whatever the hell you are doing, keep doing it." And I said, "Why do you say that?" She said, "Because that tumor on your neck is dead." And that was before I'd even gone into any conventional treatment. So she just reaffirmed and confirmed everything that I was doing up until that point was
mm.
working.
Brilliant.
But was she interested to know what I was doing? No.
Mm.
So that's where the problem lies. Then you know they're not interested in what you're doing.
It triggers them,
Um,
doesn't it? Because it's almost like it's like with anything else. When you hit somebody with a hard truth that like suddenly tests their own resonance and their own belief systems and their own like training and experience, it's like a barrier instantly comes up, doesn't it? You know?
yeah, it's cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, yeah.
That's exactly what it is, and people just don't, you know. But you know, I wasn't there to kind of like to try and convince people. I certainly weren't trying to convince doctors or anyone of anything. I just knew that I had a mission to accomplish, and that was to get myself out of the mess, essentially that I created myself.
Mm,
The most important thing that I can possibly say is at that point, I had to take radical ownership of my life. I had to take radical ownership of my health because I was leading up until that point, I was living in pure victim mode. I was
mm,
literally, you know, everything was against me. The world was against me. My own body was against me. Everything. So, yeah, I had to take radical ownership. And as I say, that point was a pivotal point in my journey because what she'd done was she kind of just reaffirmed that what I already known. She reaffirmed that my intuition was completely spot on to go and take that road. But lo and behold, I'd done the radiotherapy, albeit doing that radiotherapy didn't sit right with me. It I'd done it purely to please my family. I'd done it purely to please my loved ones close to me because they was in a terrible state of fear that they was going to lose me.
mm,
So I put myself through hell medically. And then after the radiotherapy, I've done 6 weeks of intense radiotherapy in the head and neck area, which isn't a great place to be having radiation.
mm,
So I've done that. I come out the other side of it, and there's like a cooling off period for about 2 weeks, and you have to have a scan to come back and check things how they are, because the radiation continues to work after that period of time. And I went back for the scan and sat down in a room with, I think I had about 7 members of my family in a room. Sat there, and the oncologist has pulled the scan results up in front of us, and sat there, and he looked at the scans, and he's gone, don't know how to say this, but you've now got 5 tumours. So I had 2 in this side, 2 in that side, and 1 forming my chest. So it's gone from 1 in a concentrated area to now it's completely spread. So make of that what you will. I'm not here to say that radiotherapy caused my cancer to spread, but leading up to that point, that tumour in my neck was dead, which was confirmed by the radiographer. But yet after I had radiotherapy, it then spread.
Mm.
That didn't sit right with me. It really, I was in a really, really awful place, because I was kind of angry. I was in a bit of an angered place at that point, because they immediately said to me, the rate that this cancer's moving now, you're at stage 4, and 3 months is where is your timeline that we're giving you. And immediately they pushed chemotherapy straight in front of me. And I sat there and I went, I'll think about it. And I walked out of the hospital that day with my family that were absolutely gobsmacked, because they thought, you're absolutely crazy, John. You've just been told you're going to die in 3 months and you're refusing treatment. I wasn't refusing anything. I was taking my power back. I was, taking some ownership of my decisions leading up to that point, because at that point I'd done decisions purely just to please other people, and I wasn't doing it on my terms. So I went away and got myself into a better headspace to be able to move forward, and that's what I did. I didn't sit diligently. I carried on working on the holistic practices that I had in place diligently. I had a regimented system in place that I was doing every single day. I then decided to do a huge rabbit hole dive on the chemotherapy that they wanted me to take. So I was well informed about the chemotherapy, and also looking how I can make it work for me. I didn't want to look at it as a negative. I wanted to look at it as, how can I enhance this and how can I make this work for me? So that's exactly what I did. And I ended up speaking to a great guy, a herbal specialist, who said to me, he said, I don't have a problem with chemotherapy. He said, what I have a problem with is the oncologist not preparing patients for the onslaught of the chemical onslaught that the body's going to have to take, and the body not being prepared enough to take that onslaught. The body, he said to me, the body is more than well prepared, capable of dealing with that kind of chemical onslaught, only if the body is prepared. And I said to him, what is the best way to prepare for that then? And he said, fasting, taking specific herbs, and also he highly recommended carrot juice, or juicing with a lot of carrots in there. There's a certain enzyme in carrots that really, really will help protect against the damage of the chemo. So I took his words completely literal, and I'd done exactly that. And going into chemo, every single, I think the first round of chemo, I went in there on a 48-hour fast. I got through the first round of chemo. Yeah, it hit me like a steam train, fatigued me. But usually people are in a terrible state with chemo and are sick and all sorts. I don't think I was sick once going through chemo. And I think by the second round of chemo, bearing in mind they've just told me I've got 3 months to live. By the second round of chemo, I had a 90% reduction in all my tumours. By the third round of chemo, there was no cancer in my body at all. And that's pretty that was a pretty drastic turnaround. By the doctor's accounts, they couldn't really work out what exactly was going on because they'd never really seen anybody respond to treatment like that. But the point being is I don't believe I was responding to treatment. I was my body was responding to alignment and the deep work that I was doing.
Yeah.
Um, what I'm through through that experience, what I've really learned, one of the most important things that I've learned is nothing outside of you can heal you.
Yep.
There is nothing. There's no medicine. There's no holistic treatment. There's no alternative therapy that can help you. Well, not help you, but heal you. Um, and sometimes we get a little bit too fixated on specific things being the cure or whatever it may be. All of these things are just tools. They're either pulling you into alignment of healing or they're pulling you out of alignment of healing.
Hmm.
But this vessel is designed to heal itself and fix itself if we just get out the damn way of it.
Yeah.
Um,
It's like it's basically whether it's that experience or it's like people doing breath work or any kind of modalities, like where there's other people taking the lead, for example, or you work with shamans, or you work with holistic doctors, or you work with naturopaths, or anything else like that. Like none of it cures you. It's
mm,
like it's all tools for you to
yeah,
in your arsenal for you, to show you that you are the medicine, like you are the one and only greatest medicine.
yeah,
And you're exactly right. And it's almost as if like you're a Trojan, you were a Trojan horse in that industry to literally show multiple people that, including your family,
mm,
and the oncologist.
yeah. I mean, the other thing as well is what I don't discourage people from conventional treatment. No, I never have done, and nor should anybody else. At the end of the day, um, take some responsibility. Take some ownership of your health. Um, if you are taking some form of treatment, whatever it is across the board, it doesn't matter what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Look into what you're taking into your body,
Mm-hmm.
and if you are going to take that into your body because it's your free will to do that, then take the responsibility of the repercussions of what that could possibly induce physically. Be prepared for that, and not only be prepared for that, but be prepared that if something does go quietly wayward, do the work to pull yourself back into an alignment.
I,
Um,
I, I think the fact that in the West, because of Western medicine and because of like the protocols they have in place and the restrictions and cancer acts and all this kind of stuff, right? That's all purposely put in place. Like yes, there is conventional treatment that can help you, but it's the deep level programming from a young age that we endure, like especially from kids, right? So
100%.
even as children will play with those little doctors kits. We play doctors and nurses and that, and like
Yeah,
even those have pills and little um injectors in them and stuff like that. So we're like running around at 3 years of age, like jabbing each other, pretending
yeah,
to.
of
Do you know what I
course.
mean? So we get programmed from a very early age to, if something's wrong with you, that you're sick and you can't heal yourself. You're not the greatest healer. You need to go to see a doctor, or give
Of
your
course.
power away, give your autonomy away to somebody else. And obviously we only had to look through the pandemic to see the biggest proof of that on a mass scale, right?
100%.
Just as you were in that fear and you didn't want to, your family were in fear and all this kind of stuff. Millions of
Mm,
people around the world, got the government's new medicine, um, because like often because to appease other people. You
of
know what I mean?
course.
Because they're worrying about somebody else catching something and dying, because of the fear that was put into place, and
Mm.
all based on the fact that we don't heal ourselves.
No, you're completely right. But I'm glad you touched on childhood stuff there because what what we fail to recognize is what's the root cause?
Hmm.
What's the root cause of, like, for me, I'll give my, speaking of my, from my experience, my example, I'm I started to do a lot of emotional work through this process, and a lot of deep diving on, on where was this stemming from, leading up to that point. Leading up to my diagnosis, my life was chaotic. I wasn't into any of this kind of stuff whatsoever. Just, it's like night and day, the person I am today compared to back then. And it's like, you know, where's the root cause of this coming from? Because, you know, conventional treatment's going to buy you time. It's going to put a band-aid over the crack, but it's not going to fix the problem. So, you know, it's all well and good if you bought a bit of time, but what are you doing to rectify the root cause of the issue? And that's why a lot of people have, reoccurrences and relapses with their diagnoses after they've done medical treatment and they've done none of this work in the background. And that's why it's really, really important to get to the root cause and understanding. So, for example, like mine, I can pinpoint exactly where this root cause was for me. My root cause went back to the age of 5 when my mum and dad split up, and losing my mum and dad. That was kind of the catalyst of, like a snowballing effect in my life, where it was just one thing after the other, that led me down this road of making really, really poor choices from a emotionally traumatized place. And anybody that's in an emotionally traumatized place isn't going to make good decisions. They're just not. And that has a compounding effect. So throughout my life, I ended up getting into the wrong relationships, ended up getting into the wrong circle friends, wrong friendship groups. Started making poor choices in terms of what I was consuming in my body and what I was putting in, and just it has a compounding effect, and that over a period of time will have a detrimental effect in your physical body, whether it's through the manifestation of a physical imbalance, or a mental health imbalance. And and I had a deep realization that this is where this stemmed from. So what did I do? I had to, because I was holding a lot of anger and a lot of resentment towards my parents for that happening, and I didn't even realize it. But once I started doing the emotional work around that, doing some form of acceptance around what had happened in my past, acceptance towards myself for not knowing any better at the time, and doing that work, then going in down a deep rabbit hole of forgiveness. Well, and forgiveness and letting go, that's where I found the most deep gold of healing. When you decide to release that emotional burden, that emotional stagnancy that you're perpetually carrying around, because when you're perpetually carrying around that level of dissonance in energy, anger, resentment, shame, guilt, all of these egotistical, low vibrational frequencies that you carry around, they cloud your energy, they block your bioelectrical system. So when you're perpetually stuck in a state of anger, resentment, all of these kind of low vibration frequencies, you're compounding that energetically in your physical system, and energetically, in your aura, in your chakra system, and other subtle bodies. So for me, when you start clearing that, and you start, you get to the root cause, that you're releasing that burden, you're releasing that lightness around you. You're cracking open your own light. So that for me was where the gold lied. All the other stuff kind of was a part of a system, but for me that was the kind of like the foundation of the healing that I was doing. And I had some
Yes,
profound
it, yes,
profound
it's a
experiences
great.
with it as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I was about to just elaborate on what you were saying there. Like, it's not spoke about enough. We talk about all the physical healing we do with ourselves. With certain practices. Whether that's like meditation, breath work. Really going deep with that, or we're using, connect with plant medicines and all those kind of things, right? But it's the actual, because this is huge for guys as well. It's the actual ability to forgive yourself, and let go of like guilt and shame that you hold within the body, because we all hold it energetically, and guys hold so much of it. And only have to look as far as the Cambo treatments that we do, and the guys, they purge so much deep emotion, to the point where like I feel it off them. I
Mm.
literally feel it off them. You got these big strapping blokes. A lot of ex-military guys are coming to us, and they're almost like roaring like a lion, like as they're purging all this emotion and stuff. And it takes it takes a lot of personal autonomy to actually be able to sit there and go, right, I need to work on deep forgiveness. I need to work on emotional release. I need to work on uh, letting go of the old, because they are those old ego patterns and belief systems that stay within our field, and
Mm.
literally eat away at us. It's like dark energies, like little dark lice that sit in our energy fields that just like
Yeah.
chip away at us all the time. And that's why so many blokes, like especially in the UK, and other Western countries, that's why you see so much blokes holding all this pain inside, like holding all this guilt inside.
Mm.
um, and we're brought up like that, though, aren't we? The whole boys don't cry.
Mm.
A lot of men have a lot of resentment to their parents because they weren't
Yeah.
cuddled, they weren't loved like that. They were just brought up and just sent off to school and weren't really supported and things like that.
Mm.
I'm one of them people.
Yeah.
My mother passed away last September, and I've been doing a lot of work around that because I've held up so much pain and like childhood trauma around all that, that's been coming to the surface massively. It's been that alone's been a huge mission in itself. So, to for you to do that, like around, a terminal illness, a terminal condition, um, just goes to show you how important this inner work is. You know,
It's huge.
to really,
Honestly, people don't. It gets massively overlooked. I don't honestly. It gets massively. I don't see it spoken about enough. I just don't see it spoken about enough. And like, I'm glad you said, that I was one of those people, exactly what you just said there. One of those people, brought up in that kind of like, I was brought up because I lost my mum and dad at the age of 5. I was brought up by my grandparents. So my granddad was proper old school. And, he lived till he was 98, and he was a proper old school guy. And, I was kind of, well, yeah, men don't show their emotions. They don't cry. Um, Bottle everything up. And that's exactly what I was like. And I bottled it up through with many different experiences. I didn't just suffer with regards to losing my parents. I went through consistent bad relationship after bad relationship after bad relationship, being hurt in deeply hurt in emotional relationships, being betrayed, being stabbed in the back by friendships, all sorts of things. There's a catalogue of things that can cause a compounding effect. So it's not just that one root cause, but can be the domino effect that causes all of these other compounding things that lead you up until, well, for me, led me up until that point. So it isn't just a case, what I found is when I started doing that deep emotional work around my parents, and getting to the root cause of that, I then started finding it easier to do the work around other situations. So once you do I had a process where I wrote down on a piece of paper, I listed out all the people that had done, or I held a lot of anger and a lot of resentment to, and I just got to work on the top of that list, and then I worked through that list, and at the top of the list just so happened to be my parents. so I got to the deep on work and that, and you know, gradually through time, that started becoming lighter, and the resentment started, you know, dissipating, and the anger just wasn't there anymore. And then I moved through the list, and it just I managed to move through the list a lot quicker and a lot lighter, and just through that, you completely changing your entire physiology because you're not carrying that anger and resentment anymore.
Hmm.
Because that
Yeah.
anger and resentment, you know, is creating a chemical imbalance in your system. So you're perpetually in a state of fight or flight mode all the time. You know, you're wired to be on the defensive all the time.
Hmm.
And through doing that work, I'd done some deep purging. I never used to cry, and I used to spend hours crying, just sitting there alone in my in my own space, just allowing these deep emotions to come out of me, just crying, just letting it out, and letting it process. Because all we're doing is we're bottling that stuff up, and where has it got to go? You know, we forget what emotions are. And emotions are energy in motion.
Hmm.
So where's
That's all the
that?
tears are, isn't it? Really,
Exactly. It's
it's
exactly
energy in
that.
motion.
The best example I can give is think about when you every time you've had a happy experience, does that happy experience last forever? No, it doesn't. Why doesn't it last forever? Because it feels good. So because it evokes great emotion, it evokes joy, it evokes, you know, connection, whatever that may be. And the body that evokes that feeling, so it feels good, so we process that emotion. But the minute you have a bad experience, it evokes you know, some low vibrational frequency, you know, feeling. We don't like it, so we don't process. We bottle it up.
Yeah.
So where is that energy emotion going? It's going into here, and
Hmm.
then you're creating them compounding, you know, imbalances in your internal environment.
Yep. And it's
Um,
yeah.
serious
Uh,
damage.
you only need to look right at like us in amongst the animal kingdom, right? So,
Mm,
we just literally covered there how blokes, especially, like we suffer a traumatic experience, or we suffer pain, guilt, shame, all these low level, low vibrational emotions, and we store them in the body. Whereas in like, you look at a zebra, for example, okay, in the safari, we've seen all the videos before, right? And it's getting chased by a lion. Obviously, it's full of fear, thinks it's going to get eaten, but it manages to kick the lion off, right? And the lion doesn't always get the zebra. We get shown that often it does, but it doesn't always get the zebra, right? Or the antelope. It kicks it away, and then it gets to safety. But then what is it? What's the first thing it does? It doesn't keep that fear and that trauma within its body. It shakes itself out, and it literally shakes that energy down into the ground. We
mm,
don't do that because as humans in the Western world, we don't really ground our energy anyway because of like our lifestyle. Um, and B, we just don't have this connection and understanding in general that like we store all this like pain, emotion, and trauma like energetically within the body, and then it just at a cellular level, just it affects everything. So, our mitochondria is not working properly, so we hold it, and it's held as tension within the body, right? So
yeah,
we hold guilt on our hips, for example, especially guys like on the left hip, so just some like fascia release and mitochondria release across the hip and across the hip flexor. You'll feel the energy release in your neck, and
mm,
it's like we hold all this tension and in our the weight on our shoulders.
yeah,
Been doing a lot of work with some guys on this like recently, and it's just it's as soon as you have the awareness, like and this is why it's great to talk about this on this podcast with two guys. As soon as you have the awareness, you can literally start turning your body into a furnace, basically, that literally burns away all of those stuck emotions and
yeah,
um, and things that we hold tight. It's just stepping forward and just gaining that little bit inner strength, right, and that courage, because we can all talk the talk, but it's actually stepping forward to stand in your
mm,
authenticity and take your power back by doing this work.
yeah. See, the other thing that we forget as well is when we go through these emotional traumatic experiences and we bottle up these emotions that we're experiencing, we don't like how it feels. So this is what also then leads to possible potential addictions
Mm.
because you then start drinking or you then turn to emotionally eating, and usually what's that doing? That's just compounding more to the chemical imbalance in your internal state. So this is what I'm saying. All of these things are all connected. They're all interconnected. It's like, what else it's also your environment plays a role because, you think about it, you've gone through all these emotional traumatic experiences. Like I said, you're not going to make good conscious choices about who you're surrounding yourself with, what you're watching on the TV, what you're listening to on the news. All of these things all have a compounding effect on what's going on in the internal environment. And what I'm saying to you is where does this all stem from? Where does this all stem from? And as for me, like I say, until I started doing that work around that root cause for me, that was for me was where the gold lied. And it's like doing all of the other stuff, using them tools to help release even more, physically and energetically, whether it's through doing Cambo, whether it's through, detoxification, whether it's through doing energy work. All of these things all have a role and a place in a healing system. But there should always be a system in place. You
Yeah.
should never get fixated on one thing that's going to, help you turn a corner. Everything has a place in a system, I believe.
Yeah. And
There's,
it starts with you though, actually, just acknowledging first that you've got work to do. Then it's like
mm,
the exploration phase. And we see this with obviously the plant medicine retreats that we run. Obviously, we serve Cambo here at our home, amongst retreats and stuff like that, and even our live events when we serve people happy and Sananga and all that kind of stuff. They're fantastic conscious medicines. They're
mm,
conscious medicines. They have spirit, so it's connected with the spirit of that medicine, um,
yeah,
to help you receive what you need.
mm,
As part of your healing journey. They don't heal you. They're just like we said earlier. They're tools. The same with like whether it's shamans or facilitators, whatever it is. And people like us, like we're not healing the person. We're just
mm,
providing the tools and the space so that they can heal themselves because they are the greatest medicine.
yeah,
Um, and that's why so many people now are like being called to plant medicines because they've been through experiences like yourself. I've been through experiences. I've had pretty lot of addictions, opiate addictions, all that kind of stuff from previous surgeries and that. And it's those things that kind of trigger us to kind of look elsewhere and look more holistically and take that ownership back, take that power back. It's all part of us reclaiming our sovereignty. Um, and you then sets you on that path. But you just got to take that little step forward. And, like people say to me like, oh, I'd never go do ayahuasca. Like, well, that's cool. Like it's not for everyone. It's like it's a conscious medicine. You're called to it or you're not.
mm,
And it's like, and that time's always different for everybody. Same as obviously you said like you've done like a large amount of juicing cleanses, water cleanses, and then done Cambo afterwards. You know what I mean?
yeah,
To like really cleanse the body. But again, that
mm,
works for you, but like it might not necessarily like have the same effects for myself, for example, or the person to the left or right. Um, it's so you got to feel into what you got to really feel into as well, what you think's right for you as well.
yeah. Of course. I mean, glad you touched on that because, like I say, I mean, because of what I went through and what I experienced, especially with regards to conventional treatment, I knew what I was getting myself into. I knew that the chemical onslaught that my body was going to have to take, and I knew that I was going to have to do some very, very deep detoxification work to clear that out of my system. Because if you don't, that stuff will stay in your system forever. It stores in your fat cells in the body. So it's really, really important that whatever medical treatment you have had, there is going to be remnants left over in the body. It's going to store it somewhere or another. So, whether that's in your liver, whether it's in in your kidneys, wherever it may be, the body needs to be cleansed. And I took that to a very, very deep and extreme level. 40 days of no eating, 40 days of juice fasting, then followed by 5 days of water fasting. I didn't even intend to do Cambo. I ended up doing 2 rounds of it. And my experience with Cambo was a very, very deep and profound experience. I mean, a lot of people associate Cambo with having these physical purges where you're being sick and whatnot. And I didn't experience that. I don't know whether that may be because I'd done a lot of detoxification leading up to that point. Maybe that might have been the case, but I had these very, very deep emotional purges, crying, screaming out anger. It's not dissimilar to what you explained. It's like men roaring these emotions out, and it's like that's screaming into a pillow, but without the pillow being there. It's that kind of it was that kind of experience for me. And there's never been a time that I've ever had a deep emotional purge, whether it's being in my own space or being held in a space where I didn't feel absolutely amazing afterwards. Like just feeling, clear, lighter. It's I believe like these emotional purges are like it's like cleaning the crap off your windscreen energetically. It's literally just gives you a clear vision of clarity, and just a nice calmness about yourself. Your body's not locked in, stiffened up and tense all the time. You can feel your body relaxing, and you're not carrying around that emotional weight anymore. And you like you said, that tension in the shoulders all the time. Um, so yeah, these things are really, really important, very, very important, and also like you said, awareness. Awareness is where it all starts. And at the end of the day, getting awareness around getting awareness around the role you've played in your own suffering is for me is really, really key. The role that you've played in your own suffering. Unfortunately, you can't do anything about what you've been traumatized in your childhood. You can't do nothing about that. But as an adult, it's your responsibility to take that on and not be controlled by it anymore. Have an acceptance around it, and not be living in that perpetual state of victim mode to what you've
Yeah.
experienced.
Hmm. It's cutting the cords with
Yeah.
those emotions and those experiences that you allow yourself to be tied to, because you can't change them. And it does take a lot of work sometimes for a lot of people. But once you cut the cords from that, like, you energetically feel a million times lighter anyway.
Mm.
You're tapping into the deeper aspects of yourself, to do that. Which again is mightily important as part of this inner work journey. And I guess a lot of that led you on to developing the SoulREcode, which is pretty amazing. Is like to sort of shed some beautiful light on that.
Yes, it is. So when I was so digressing again, when I started doing the energy work very, very early on in 2017, it was having I was having really, really profound experiences with it. So I could really, really feel the energy clearing out of my system. I had like subtle shifts in my energetic. I could feel it energetically. I can feel it physically when I was receiving energy work. And this had a profound experience with me. So profound where I become so inquisitive or curious to know how is this working? What because I wasn't really. I wouldn't say I was skeptical. I didn't have time to be a skeptic around these things because, I've just been told I was going to die in 3 months. But I just had to dive in. Anyway, so through doing this energy work, I was working with an energy healer 3 times a week throughout this whole process. And I worked with him 3 times a week for like 11 months, nearly 11, 12 months, consistently and diligently. Through that time, he then became my teacher because he then taught me energy work. And I went to like a level one in that modality of energy healing. And I then started working on myself alongside him doing the work on me. I then went to an advanced level in that energy work, energy practice, and advanced energy psychotherapy work with him as well. I travelled to like Czech Republic and studied over there with him. I then studied other modalities over these past 7 years, and I think what happened was through the merging of working with these different modalities and figuring out certain things and understanding the different subtle bodies that we have. I started to see a way of it's like forging or merging these different modalities and merging it and creating my own method. And I didn't plan to do this. It just come to me completely natural. I didn't think sit there one day and think to myself, oh, I'm gonna do this. But it just come to me naturally, and it just developed more and more. And I never had a name for it. I never had a name for it at all. It's just what I did. And through doing this work consistently and diligently, I was doing a live event at Mind Body Spirit in London, and I was doing a one-to-one session with somebody at the exhibition, and I had a download whilst I was doing this session with this lady, and she had serious eye problems. She'd been getting like 3 injections a week into her eyeballs to because she had this serious eye condition. She could hardly see. Her vision was completely impaired. And I was doing this one-to-one session with her, and I had a download whilst I was doing it. But whilst I was doing the work with her, and I was closing my eyes, I could see her energetically like code. It was like I could see code, and it literally just popped into my head. This SoulREcode is the work that I'm doing. It sounds like mad when I'm saying it, but that's exactly how it happened. And up until that point, I wasn't really seeing anybody that I was working with in that way. It was like the next level of this modality that I was creating took it up to that next level. And now, that work, really what I'm doing, it's not me. When I'm doing that work, I'm a channel. I'm just a divine channel for consciousness to work through me to essentially whoever I'm working with, whether I'm doing something with in a one-to-one session or if I'm doing my group sessions with people, they're plugging into a frequency, and that's what I call soul recoding, and it's recoding alignment. It's bringing the soul back into the alignment and bringing the body into the alignment with the soul. And that to me is the alignment of healing and reconnection. So that's the best way I can that's the best way I can kind of describe it. It's very, very difficult for me to articulate, but like I say, it's an activation that's within that's come through me, a download come through me for me to share with people. It's not people. I don't see myself as this guru or anything like that. I'm here to just as a frequency you come and plug into, and you're I'm here to raise your vibration, frequency, consciousness, whichever way you want to look at it, all of that. And through doing that, when your frequency and your vibration and your consciousness is at a raised state, that's where your physical body will start to heal. It will start to feel at ease. It will start to harmonize, come back into balance, and for it to start doing what it's naturally designed to do. And yeah, you're using all the other different tools in your system as well. So yeah, that's what I do today with the SoulREcode work. And so we was talking about before we jumped on, and going through the pandemic and that experience and witnessing the fallout that people were seriously suffering with regards to their emotional health, their mental health, and their physical health as well. I started doing free sessions for people on a Sunday evening. I started up a group called Sit Feel Heal, Sit Feel Heal Revolution on a Sunday evening, and I had no expectations of it whatsoever. Just knew that people needed help, and there's a lot of people out there that are broken people, and also a lot of people out there that are skeptical around energy work. Also, people that don't have a lot of finances to receive energy work. So I put it together. The sessions are completely free for people to come and receive on a Sunday evening. And I've been doing that work now for the last, it's coming up 3 years in November. So them sessions are a beautiful space for people to come and get back into alignment and plug into that frequency, the SoulREcode frequency, and receive a space for their body to get back into alignment. And yeah, that's what I've been doing to help the collective as much as I possibly can. Because we at the end of the day, I discovered my purpose for all this experience, and my purpose here is to be of service. That's all I'm here for. That's all I'm here for now, is to be of service.
But what's beautiful, mate, is you're another great example of people who have been, been through like some either a serious condition, traumatic experience, had addictions, and all this kind of stuff, and have then it's aligned them with their purpose as a result, and by making the vessel like pure, a great channel to be able to receive these downloads, receive these abilities and these tools and these gifts, to help people raise their consciousness and do the exact same thing to help people recode. I've been fortunate over the last few years to surround myself with so many amazing souls that have had huge, profound experiences themselves, and as a result, that's what's put them into alignment with their gifts and their purpose. People like Nicola Light, who's obviously all about light language and does a lot of energy work, and Joe and Kelly from Crystal Water Experience, who been through their own journeys, but have come together to basically code water, to disconnect either things or us from the inorganic AI matrix and plug us back into the organic matrix, organic template. Where all the truths are, the healing modalities are, the ancient wisdom, all that kind of stuff. So it's your whole story, your journey is another amazing episode, really, of
Yeah.
and just proof that that we're all here on a mission on Earth, and we've all got these profound keys and unique codes within our blueprint, for that journey. And you've gone through hell basically to unlock all those codes to do what you're doing now, which is absolutely phenomenal. And it's I thoroughly enjoy listening to these stories day in day out, and meeting people like yourself. And I really encourage people to obviously to like check out the amazing work that you're doing, and you still do to this day.
Yeah,
Where's
I
the best
mean,
place? Where's the best place for people to find you? Like in
so
terms of
just come and yeah, people can just come and join me on Instagram. I've got a link in my bio that you can just click on there. It takes you straight through to the sign up page for Sit Feel Heal. It's completely free, but obviously, obviously, come and join my newsletter, and you receive the invites week in week out for the free sessions.
mm,
So, there's no strings attached. All I ask for people when they come and join the sessions is shed a gift. If you feel a profound experience, or you've had a shift in your energetic state, or you've had an emotional purge. I mean, I had a lady that could come onto my session that she could pinpoint exactly. She had an emotional purge from something she released in 1992. And she messaged me. She was like, I can't believe I've had this emotional purge after one of your sessions. It's felt profound. And it's like, so listening and having things like that happen for people is why I do what I do. And all I ask is for people to share the gift, just pass it on, and give it to somebody in need. Give it to people that are suffering. And there's huge amounts of people out there that are just suffering with their mental health and their emotional health. And I work week in, week out with working on emotional balancing and mental health, and then stress reduction, taking the body out of fight or flight mode. So two very, very vital, important things that get focused on. But yeah, people can come and join that. Come to my Instagram at John Bygraves on Instagram, or my website is www.soulrecodehealing.com. So yeah, you can go on there and check
mate.
that out.
And I'll be sure to put all of it in the show notes, mate.
Thank you.
And I just want to stress the exact on what you just said there to the people is, you know, everyone's got a gift within them, and it's about turning the lens inwards. That's where you'll find your gifts. And in the meantime, during your healing process, because we're all shedding a lot of this old stuff, to realign ourselves with our authentic self, on our soul mission. And it's phenomenal to have people like yourself, John, out there that have done the work and are full proof of it, and what can come out the other side,
Yeah,
and living in a life of peace, being of service, not being in flight or fight mode, not being in stress, not suffering from anger, resentment, guilt and shame in this all your life, and especially overcoming such a traumatic, serious condition,
mm,
which you healed. You went down the whole self healing process to basically teach you, but shine a light on it all, and teaching others at the same time. Whether that's the oncologist or your own family is absolutely
mm,
phenomenal. So I really thank you for your service to humanity, for showing the way, in terms of what we can do and just how powerful we truly are.
yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Ladies and gents, I'm sure you'll agree, John's story is absolutely phenomenal. Please do go and follow on Instagram. Please check out his website. Get involved with the work he does on Sundays with his soul recoding group, and start using these examples as a perfect opportunity to start your own process, because we're all on a journey now. If you haven't worked that out by now, just give your head a little wobble and get back in the game, because we're all here now on our paths or discovering our paths. And these episodes and bringing these stories to the forefront are what's needed at the time like this, in this critical time in humanity, in this ascension process that we're all going through, where we're shedding all the old stories are breaking down, and we're stepping into these new paths where we need to be aligned, which involves doing the work. Thanks again for coming on, John. It's been absolutely a pleasure to have you and to share your story on the show.
Thank
And
you. Thank you for having me.
yeah, and we'll definitely have you on again sometime soon and be sharing a lot of your work, brother.
Great stuff. Thank you.
Ladies and gents, if you enjoyed this episode, as I always ask, please share it with at least one person. It's really important that we get these gifts out there, as John says. And I will see you very soon, once again, on Mission Consciousness, the podcast. Stay safe. Much love.